Welcome back to Razing the Bar, Let's Play Might and Magic 6. This is episode 17, and today we're going to go into the Temple of Baa on the Castle Iron Fist map. It took me about an hour, a little over, to play through this dungeon, but I think on an accelerated playback, like you're seeing now, we'll be able to split it into just 2 episodes. So I'll split it somewhere down the middle today, and we'll do the second half next episode. So the layout of this place is quite different to anywhere that we've previously been on this playthrough. It's basically there's a hub in the center, a huge square room with a chamber in the center. That's where the sort of treasure is. We enter on the east, and in the other 3 cardinal directions there's another door, and then in the corners of the room there are tunnels that lead down into caves. And to start this dungeon, what we're going to do is clear out all 4 of those corner caves, which are full of enemies. There's a little bit of loot in there, but if we clear those out first, which we're doing at the moment, mostly with the bow, they mostly contain spiders, skeletons, and there's a few spellcasters in a couple of them as well. So our bow strategy works quite well here. We'll clear these out, and then we can use these little caverns as sort of bolt holes, as for other things. We can kite things down there, keep away from melee radius for things, and take them out safely without backing into things. There is a little treasure in here. As you can see, there's these piles of skulls, and we are staying well clear of those because they tend to curse us. But there's also these piles of trash. Well, there's these brews as well. Let's talk about that. So, as you can see, we're checking our resistances here. These brews give us permanent resistance boosts to a single character. We have some that give fire and some that give magic. We haven't really looked at resistances much yet because we haven't had much opportunity to boost our resistances. I tried to find out exactly what the mechanics of resistances were. I looked in the official hint book and on various online sites, but I can't find any maths that actually explains what resistances do, except that they reduce damage in various sustained by various damage types, but to what degree and what the maths are for that, I have no idea. But I did see someone argue that resistances in the late game become way more important than armor. Like most of our damage mitigation in the late game will come through our resistances. The armor is contributing very little. There's almost no point in even wearing armor, in fact, in the late game, someone claimed. But exactly what happens with those numbers, I wasn't able to find out, but I will keep checking. But basically, I think resistances is something we want to try and get a nice even spread across our party. So whenever we get the opportunity for a resistance boost, we will just assign it to the party member that scores the lowest on that resistance. I think that's the way to go with that, since all of our characters will get hit. There isn't a front and back line to the party. As you can see, our cleric, through rummaging through one of those trash piles, sustained a disease condition there. We have no means to cure that, unfortunately. And short of leaving the dungeon and going to the temple, which we could do, and it wouldn't cost very much to do. But in order to just not interrupt the playthrough, we're just going to carry on here with that disease condition. So this is the second of 4 of these diagonal chambers, and it's more or less the same in each of them. I don't need to give you a play-by-play. What I do want to talk about is something about the graphical engine in this game. As you can see, it's fairly evident that despite the general level design being a full 3D with full freedom of movement and everything, a proper 3D engine, pretty much every interactable object and every enemy in this game is just a sprite. It's a sprite that's permanently turned towards the viewer. The sort of graphics engine term for this is a billboard. So pretty much nothing that you interact with in this game is modelled in 3D. The torches, the cauldrons, barrels, every enemy, chests. No, I tell a lie, sorry, chests are actually modelled in 3D. But all these rocks and the campfire there and pretty much everything we see is just a sprite. Now, this game came out in 1998, and even in 98, this was not a modern technique. This was a very dated technique. This was the same year that Half-Life came out, it was the same year Thief came out, and it was the same year the original Unreal came out, and none of those games use it. They all have enemies that are actually modelled as 3D, three-dimensional entities. They don't use this technique. So even when this game came out, it was quite behind the times in terms of its 3D, even though most RPGs were 2D at the time, and so it was pretty, inventive for the genre. It didn't impress anyone in terms of its graphical ability compared with other games on the PC. And that's one thing, it didn't really damage it that much, but Might and Magic 7 and 8, the two sequels to this game, the two story sequels, I should say, also basically used the same engine. They did very little in the way of improvements to it. So the Might and Magic 8 came out in the year 2000. Deus Ex is out by this point. And they're still using billboards. They're still using two-dimensional sprites for enemies and things. Very, very dated technology by that point, and reviewers really picked up on how behind the times that game was. It didn't do it any favours commercially, and indeed, Might and Magic 8 was not considered to be a success compared to the previous two games. It had other problems as well. It was a fairly rushed game, or felt like it. But the extremely dated technology did it no favours whatsoever. So we're heading down into the fourth of these caverns now. As you could see in the previous one, there were some pretty nasty spellcasters there that were doing us some damage, so we're not just giving everything a hail of arrows here. Unfortunately, we did need to be a little more strategic with the use of fireball and things. But the options available to us in this game are a lot more than what we actually have. See, what we're doing here is not particularly interesting, and I want to change that. We're using sparks, we're using fireball, but mostly we're just using bows and arrows, and that's a very limited set of the play options that this game offers to us. I mean, this game has 9 schools of magic in it, each of which has a dozen spells. So there are a lot of different options available to us. We're just using 3. I think even though we're sort of specialised for the things that we are doing, what I want to do in the future of this Let's Play is experiment with some different types of play as well, just to be a little more interesting, even if doing so means not necessarily playing in any way optimally. It's getting kind of repetitive just to use these this very small number of tools from the toolbox. Okay, so we just cleared out the last cavern there, rested, and we got ambushed. That's the first time that happened. Some pretty nasty skeleton lords there, and they indeed took out our cleric pretty much in a couple of hits there. So that's not great, but at least we can pull them. Now we can kite them down into one of these big empty caverns where we can run them around. They do no ranged damage, these guys. They hit hard, but if you can get distance and maintain distance from them, they pose no real threat. And that was the same for the spiders as well. Why are we in the Temple of Baa? Well, it's not because we have been sent here to do a particular quest. There are quests related to this place, but we haven't actually received them yet. No, we're just here for some recreational killing, basically, because it looked like a good place to go. Now we have a couple of locked doors here that we currently can't get through. There's going to be a sequence to these doors with a key will open a door that will allow us to get access to a chest that will contain another key, etc. There's a specific order here, and I basically followed a walkthrough to get it to avoid backtracking and sort of tedious walking around. I know that makes it somewhat less interesting, but at least it keeps the playthroughs from being overlong. So we got another chest there for a bathhouse, containing a bathhouse key. We don't know where that is. Now, opening that chest, as you can see on the radar there, Wizard Eye reveals all those red dots and a lot of enemies that were spawned by opening that chest, and that's a pattern that will continue for every chest we open in this place. There are going to be waves of enemies, despite the fact that we've cleared out the thing to start with. We will see waves and waves of enemies. Now, although these spellcasters are an annoyance to us, they do manage to hit us much harder than most things can't hit us if we keep distance. We're not exactly, they don't provide that much of a challenge to us particularly. We have one character diseased and their stats are seriously compromised as a result, but we are not really, it's not really hurting us. We're still able to take these things down. We're actually, even from just a few episodes previous, our killing ability has seriously increased. We've got some interesting items there. We've got an endurance +8 belt. That's quite nice. That'll give us more, I'm not sure, resistances maybe, or hit points. Yes, I think hit points. Hit points are calculated off different stats for different classes, interestingly, but our paladin, I think, will get a hit points boost from having an endurance buff item. And we got an improved sword for him as well, which doesn't really help us because we're generally not closing to melee range. Well, this might be an exception because it seems the spawn of these skeletons happened right in the corridor, or at least they found their way in here, so we are trapped. Our normal strategy not going to work too well here. We can't use Fireball either. We have Sparks, we have Melee. And these Skeleton Lords, as you can see, some of these enemies have quite long health bars. Yeah, as I was saying, we are putting them down pretty easily now. Just even from the difference between now and even a few episodes before now is quite pronounced in terms of our combat ability, and that will continue. As our stats keep increasing, we will find we'll be able to mow down stuff like this in a few episodes. So yeah, I'm going to try some other play styles on future episodes, I think. I'll try and, rather than just focus on a few things, I'll try and get as many spells as we can. And we'll see what else. Many of them probably won't be anywhere near as viable, but we'll see what else can happen. Mostly junk here. I think the helm may be an improvement. A secret door key. Nice. Okay, so yeah, the helm is definitely an improvement. Let's equip that. So we're going to wrap this up in just a minute or so. We just have another wave of enemies to take out, and then we will venture into the remaining tunnel that we haven't opened up yet. But I think we'll save that tunnel for the next episode. This seems like a good place to break it. We're about halfway through the dungeon. What we'll do in the next episode is we will head upstairs in this dungeon, and the second floor will be the second episode. Will be episode 18 of this Let's Play. Yeah, taking a bit of damage here as always, but nothing we can't wrest our way out of when we've taken these guys out. Those fireballs are hitting pretty hard now. 27 points there. Most of our arrows are hitting with about 14 points as well. That's quite nice. But it is just a fraction of what they will end up hitting as. The more the better. So this corridor through here, we can hear a sound coming through. And if we open the door, we can see that we're going to have to dodge these moving fireballs. But that's for next episode. For now, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time.